HarperCollins presents A Matter of Persuasion by Theresa Howes, read by Kate Handford. For Bill, my very own Wareham. Chapter 1, 1882. The artist's studio was in Hell's Kitchen, New York, an area of grubby streets and overburdened houses where well-to-do men like Wilbur Eaton and Eleanor, the eldest of his 3 daughters, never usually visited. It was left to Amy, the middle Eaton sister, to instruct the coachman of the coupe they'd hired on the most efficient route from their brownstone townhouse in the exclusive Silk Stocking district to the fraying edges of the city, where Mr. Justin Jones could just about afford the rent on the tiny attic space in the 5-story walk-up he grandly referred to as his studio. Ordinarily, they'd have traveled in their own brougham, with a pair of steppers, but Mr. Eaton had been reluctant to risk his own carriage and horses in this part of town. Mr. Jones must have heard the progress of their feet on the bare wooden stairs as they made their way up to his attic, because the studio doors swung open even before they'd reached the landing, before Amy had caught her breath enough to prepare Eleanor and her father for the artist's enthusiasm. "Good afternoon. I'm delighted to see you all. Come in, come in." He was wearing a yellow waistcoat and plaid trousers, and for once had gone to the trouble of brushing his hair. He beamed at his guests, his eyes unnaturally bright for the time of day. "The portrait is ready for you to inspect." The studio smelled of turpentine and damp cloth, of the accumulation of dust and yesterday's beer. Eleanor lifted the hem of her pink satin skirt to avoid it picking up the grime, curling her lip as she approached the painting, which had been set upon an easel by the window to catch the best of the daylight. "So, this is what all the fuss is about." Reluctant to cross the dirt-scrabbled floor, Mr. Eaton raised his chin and squinted at the portrait from his place by the door. "He's caught your likeness, Amy. I'll say that much." Never one to disagree with her father, Eleanor gave a grudging nod. "It's like I'm looking right at you." Amy examined the picture of a woman in an oyster-gray dress, a lilac wrap draped around her shoulders. Whichever way she looked at it, her own familiar face stared back at her, wearing the half-smile she'd presented to Mr. Jones during the long hours she'd sat for him. To his credit, he'd replicated the arch of her eyebrows, the curve of her lips, just as they greeted her in the mirror each morning as she pinned her hair and checked her starched collar and cuffs for dirt. But that was all he'd done. For all the hours she'd sat for him in this gloomy little attic, he'd failed to capture a single one of her thoughts. He'd caught every feature, but beyond the surface, the image could have been of anyone. "Does it please you, Miss Eaton? I've caught your quickness, don't you think so?" No, she didn't think so. Somehow she had to find it in her heart to break it to him. Despite his best efforts, the portrait was a failure. Her enduring silence, during which she swallowed back a variety of tactless replies, was all the answer he needed. "There's no obligation to purchase the painting, Miss Eaton. We agreed that when I asked you to sit for me." It seemed unfair not to buy the picture after he'd gone to so much trouble over it. And yet, as far as Amy was concerned, the portrait might as well have been of a stranger. Even if it had pleased her, hanging it on a wall in the family home would have shown a lack of self-awareness on her part, bordering as it did on flattery. At 27, she'd passed the bloom of youth. Her complexion was no longer as luminous as Mr. Jones had painted it. The unease she'd feel every time she looked at it would cause her to avoid the room where it hung. She should never have let him persuade her to sit for him in the first place. "What will you do with the painting, if I don't buy it?" He bowed his head, indicating he was in her favor, that there were no hard feelings. "I'm planning a touring exhibition of my work. Your portrait will be the main attraction. When the public sees..."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?